Okay, when the pan is already hot, we're going to add about a tablespoon of vegetable oil and a tablespoon of butter. Wait till it foams up before we continue. Okay, it's foamed up. That's what we're looking for. Add the chanterelles. This is a good time to use the smaller chanterelles. If you've foraged them, which you probably haven't, but if you forage them, you always get some little ones and you get some big ones. I use the little ones in this because they're going to be ground up anyway. Actually, the little ones have a more delicate flavor. In French, they have a separate name for them depending on the size of them. So you're just going to let these cook for a few minutes. You don't want to really brown them, but you want not really looking to brown these. We just want to do at this point is cook them and drive off the extra moisture. And you don't need to stir them too much, just once in a while. You can see they're already shrinking as the water is leaving them from the heat. Now when they've lost a lot of their moisture and the steam is gone, then we can add in the red onion, or the shallot if you prefer. It's important not to cook this to the point where the shallot starts to darken and burn, or the red onion in this case. You just want it nice and soft. You don't want it burnt. Okay, these are soft. Now we're going to do something that's pretty unusual. You wouldn't expect this in this sort of recipe. We're actually going to add more butter to this because this is going to be a stuffing. We want to use the heat in the pan to melt the rest of the butter. We're also going to add our tarragon and dill. I'm using dried herbs here. I actually prefer dried herbs in this unusual case because they seem to give a more intense flavor in the final dish than the fresh herbs would. So let's stir this into the butter. I'm going to again try to get rid of extra moisture, but without burning anything. Yeah, I'm also going to add what's called poulet glacé. It's a very concentrated chicken stock. You can purchase this in Sur La Table and some other stores. You can make your own, but it takes a lot of chicken bones and a lot of work. And the end result is actually no better than the commercial product in this particular recipe anyway. So I would suggest you just buy it. It comes in a little tub, and if you put it in the refrigerator, it keeps practically forever. And just about half a teaspoon in there will really intensify the flavor. And I'm just going to keep this going for another minute or two. It's the point here again is to get rid of the extra water. And there was some water in the butter, don't forget. You're not seeing clouds of steam coming off anymore. It means it's pretty close to being done. And I see very little steam. So I'm going to call this finished. I'm going to take it off the heat, and then we're going to add the other ingredients. The next ingredient to add, now it's been moved off the heat, is the garlic. It's been sliced thinly. And you don't have to worry about this too much because this whole thing's going to be ground up in a food processor. So if the garlic is only cut crudely, that's still okay. It'll work out fine in the end. Now we're going to add about a tablespoon or so of lemon juice, fresh squeezed, about a couple tablespoons of Parmesan cheese, and finally breadcrumbs. And you want enough breadcrumbs in there to absorb the extra moisture. You don't want to make it bready, but you need to have enough in there to pick up all of the extra moisture. Okay, just usually 2 to 3 tablespoons is enough. And this is looking good. This is fine. You want it moist. You don't want it to be real dry, or your stuffing in the end will be real dry. But this looks pretty good. So now I'm going to take this for a spin in the food processor and get it down to an even consistency for stuffing. It's in the food processor bowl. And I'm also going to add about half a teaspoon of mustard at this point too. And it's done. You just want to get the big pieces ground to little ones. That's all. Now at this point, you need to have a little taste of it. See what you think. Does it need some pepper? Does it need some salt? It'll probably need both. And this stuffing can be made the day ahead of time if you want. Get it up to this point, then making the pork chops is that much faster. When it's time to stuff these, you want to wipe them off. Get rid of all the extra moisture on the outside. Use a sharp boning knife. And here's the key. You want to pick a place in the middle and make a single puncture. Keep the knife parallel in the middle of the chop. And then turn the knife around like this. Don't make a giant cut down the side. Keep it to one little hole. But work your knife back and forth in this part in the middle of the chop. And then that way, stuffing won't all fall out while it's cooking. Now, when you're done, you've got one little hole, and your finger can go in the entire area. Now, this is the hole you want to fill. You can use either a piping bag, or if you're patient, you can just use a spoon and stuff it in. If you end up making a giant gash across here, you're going to have to sew it up with a toothpick in order to hold it together. But if you keep the hole small like this, that's all you need to do. It will seal itself as it cooks. Got it all stuffed. I'm going to massage it just a little bit to make sure the stuffing is evenly distributed. Now if you've brined this the way you should, then it doesn't need any more salt. It's already got plenty of salt in the tissue. So it does need some pepper, and a little bit of flour will aid it for browning on the outside. Don't put too much, just a little bit. When the pan's hot, we're going to throw it in and start frying. The butter's foamed up, butter and oil. Place this in, and we do not move it around the pan. We want it to develop a nice crust on that side. So just let it sit, let it get cooked for a good 3 or 4 minutes at least before you check it, see if it's ready to turn. Then in a few minutes, meat moves easily. Notice it's swollen up from cooking, expanding against the filling. First side's done, we're going to give it about 3 minutes on the other side. When this time is up, we're going to tilt it over to the side, cook the fat along the edges. This is important. You're just going to have to hold it and do it by hand because it won't stand up in the center of the pan too easily. Yeah, sometimes it will. Yeah, I got lucky there. Give it a minute or so on this side before you move it off the platter. On all the sides, that is. You want to be sure you melt the fat that's along the edges as much as you can. Now that the pork is good, we're going to add some onions to the pan. Deglaze it a little bit. Get up some of these brown bits. We're not looking to cook this real well. We just want to use the onion to pick up the brown bits. And we're going to use this. We're going to put this on top of the pork. And it's baking in the oven next to finish it off. Here's our beautiful brown pork. We're going to add some onion to the top of this and a little knob of butter. Now this seems like a lot of butter, but it's going to melt down and just become juices in the bottom. It won't be part of the pork, it just keeps it from drying out. And this goes into the oven at 170 degrees for about 12 minutes. You have to check it to see how done it is, but 12 minutes is about right. 170, so it's been 12 minutes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just remove these onions. They've served their purpose. Don't need those anymore. And then this goes off to platter to rest for 8 to 10 minutes before you actually serve it. There we have the finished pork as it came out of the oven. Once it's properly rested, you can plate it however you want, but let's have a look inside, see what it looks like. There's the level of filling. It's absolutely perfectly cooked and really delicious, really delicious. Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.